guys. Welcome back. We're gonna touch base on bridge modeling, 3D bridge modeling using Dynamo, and also populating the task information delivery plan, also known as the TIDP. So essentially, the TIDP is a spreadsheet whereby you populate the deliverables that you guys have generated based on your BIM requirements or level of information you need. So essentially, the TIDP includes documents, drawings, 3D models that you guys plan on submitting, and all of that. Each of these TIDPs they comprise of different sets of disciplines. So you have the one for perhaps bridges, you have the one for utilities, you have the one for landscaping, and so on. And all of that they are consolidated and they are placed together in a master information delivery plan. So the TIDP and MIDP is one of the major BIM requirements whereby a project is executed using BIM implementation or ISO 19650 standards. So in this tutorial, we're going to cover 3D modeling of a bridge. We're going to use Dynamo, and then we're going to generate general arrangement drawings based on that bridge. And then we're going to fill out the TIDP based on the information and also the level of detail that we have generated from our model. Without further ado, let's start with our project. So first things first, we generate families like I have taught you guys. So we're going to start with the base. Let's go to family new, and we're going to go with metric generic model and say open. Okay, so the way we model our families, we have to make it smart enough in terms of how we choose our insertion point because we're going to use Dynamo to assemble everything. All right, so in the reference level or the floor plan, we're going to start with our reference planes. We're going to place one this side, another one this side, another one at the top, another one at the bottom like this. Okay, so we're going to offset this by 750, and this one also by 750. This one this side, we're going to offset it by 1250, 1250. And then we're going to go to the front elevation. So on the front elevation, this is going to be our insertion point. So we're going to place another reference plane at the bottom like this. And this one, we're going to make it 1000 millimeters. All right, so let's apply some parameters. So this one is going to be our depth. So let's create the parameter. This is going to be our base depth. Say okay, gonna lock it, go to the reference level. We're gonna place one like this. We're gonna place another one like that. And then this one, we're gonna name it base length. Okay, and then we're gonna lock it. And then this one, we're gonna name it base width. Gonna say okay, and then lock it. And then we're gonna generate our geometry from this. We're gonna say extrusion. Select our rectangle, place it like that. And then we're gonna lock these lines against these reference planes. And say finish. Go to the front elevation, drop it down, and then lock it, and then drop it down, and then lock it. All right, so the next thing is we're gonna generate some piles while we are at it. So from this, I'm gonna go to the front elevation and then copy this reference plane and offset it by, I'm gonna make it, let's make it 8000 millimeters. All right, and then I'm gonna add a dimension right there, and then I'm gonna create a parameter from this. So this is gonna be our pile depth. Say okay, and then lock it. Go to the reference level. I'm gonna place some reference planes. So I'm gonna place one on this side and then another one on that side. All right, so I'm gonna place some dimensions like this. and then I'm gonna make it equal, and then only these ones are gonna be adjusted, and then I'm just gonna remove this. I'm gonna do the same thing this side, so I'm gonna place two of them like this, one on this side, one on that side, and then place our dimensions between these five, and then I'm gonna make it equal, and then only these ones that I have placed there are gonna be adjusted. So I'm gonna go to extrusion again, place some circles. So I'm gonna make them, let's make it 250. And then I'm just gonna copy them towards this side, and then this side, and then this side. Uh, I think I'm gonna copy another one right in the middle. So let's place this one like that, and then this one like this. So I'm just gonna reduce it. Let's make them 200 instead. There you go. So I'm gonna say finish edit mode, go to the front elevation. I'm gonna drag them towards the bottom and then lock it, and then drag them towards this point and then lock them. All right. So after this, I'm gonna go to the 3D view, and on the 3D view, I'm just gonna select the geometry. So the last step obviously is to apply the material. So I'm just gonna make it concrete. Type in concrete, and if I scroll down, I'm gonna say concrete cast in situ, apply, and then okay, and this is what we have. So I'm just gonna save this, and so I'm gonna save this as a base, and then I'm gonna close it down. All right, so the next thing is we're gonna model our piers. So I'm gonna go to new and say metric generic model and say open. Okay, so after this, I'm gonna go to the front elevation. I'm gonna start with my depth. I'm gonna place my reference plane like this. And the entire depth of our piers, it's gonna be consistent at 7,000 millimeters. Let me just extend this and then lock it again. So I'm gonna go back to the reference level. I'm gonna say create, and essentially our pier is gonna be a bit offset because we're gonna nest our bearings inside our piers, and also it's gonna be the same case for our abutment. We're gonna nest them and combine them as a single family with shared parameters. So essentially, I need to know what the depth of my pier of my bearing is. So I'm just gonna place a random reference plane like this. So this reference plane is gonna be, this offset is gonna be the depth of my bearing. So it's gonna be 60 plus, let's say 20 plus 10 plus, let's say 30. So the depth of my bearing is gonna be 120, or let's make it 60 for the concrete plinth, and then for the two plates are gonna be 40, so 20 each, and then the epoxy is gonna be let's say 40 again, so it's gonna be 140. All right, so after this, I'm gonna go to the reference level, say create, and say extrusion. So the diameter of our pulse is going to be 750, so this is going to be 375. So okay, finish edit mode, go to the front elevation. I'm going to drag this towards the bottom, lock it, and then drag this towards there, and then lock it, and then I'm going to apply some parameters right there. This is going to be our pier depth, and say okay, and then I'm just going to lock it like that. All right, so I'm just going to save this. This is going to be our piers, and say save. All right. Now the next thing is we're gonna have to model our apartment. So I'm gonna say new and then metric generic model again and say open. So for our apartment, I'm gonna say reference plane. I'm gonna place one on this side and then another one on this side. So this one I'm gonna offset it by 6,000 and then this one also by 6,000. Okay, so if I let me just extend this and lock it again. So if I go to the left elevation, it's going to be the same case for our apartment. We're going to have to choose an offset. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place another reference plane like this. And then this reference plane, I'm going to offset it by 2000 millimeters, which is going to be the total depth of our apartment. And then I'm going to say create, place another reference plane on this side. So this one, I'm going to offset it by, let's say 3000. And then just drag this right there. And then I'm going to select this one and then copy it to the left by, let's say 1000. Okay, so this is how it looks. I'm gonna place another reference plane, which is gonna be used as a reference for where our bearing is gonna be placed. So I'm gonna offset this by, let's say, 1500. And so it's gonna be 1500. And then I'm just gonna add another 140 offset. Let me remove this one. Okay, so I'm just going to increase the total depth of my apartment. I'm going to make it 3000 in this instance. So yeah, I think, well, let's make it 2.5. Yeah, I think 2.5 works. All right, so I'm going to go to create and say extrusion. I'm going to place it right on this point and then take it to the left by, let's say, 1005. Bring it to the top like this, place it like that. And then I'm going to place this like this and then like that. So yeah, this is how it looks. So I'm going to say finish edit mode, go to the reference level, drag it towards this point, lock it, drag it towards that point, and then lock it. And then go to the left elevation again for our ear wings. I'm going to say create extrusion, and then I'm going to make them 300 millimeter thick. So I'm going to place them like this, place them like that. I'm going to take it down by, let's say, 800 millimeters, and then bring it down like this diagonally, and then place it like that. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to say finish edit mode. I'm going to increase this length. I'm going to make it 2000 millimeters. So let me see the total of this. So this is going to be 4000. Actually, let's make it 1000 because I want our precast end block to be not more than 3000, not more than 3.5. So 3.5 as it is, it's fine. So I'm going to edit this ear wing. I'm just going to remove these two lines. I'm just going to drag this towards this point and then place another line, take it down by 800 and then bring it down diagonally like that. So finish edit mode, go to the reference level, drag this towards the end, lock it, and then reduce the depth of this. I'm going to make it 300 millimeters. So I'm going to select it, mirror pick axis, mirror it towards the other side. Go to the 3D view, and this is how it looks. So what we're going to do is we're going to join everything just to clean up the geometry, and this is how it looks. All right, so the next thing is I'm just going to go to the reference level. I'm going to place a base right there. So this base, I'm going to offset it from this point by, let's say, 7,000 millimeters. And then also this side, so it's going to be 14,000 millimeters in width. And then in length, I'm going to offset it from this point by 1,000. And then from that point, it's going to be 5,000. I think 5,000 is fine. I'm going to say finish, finish, go to the front elevation, and then I'm just going to drag it towards the bottom of our apartment, lock it, and then the entire depth of this, I'm going to make it 2005. or let's make it 1.5. There you go. So if you go to the 3D view, this is how it looks. All right. I think, let me just reduce it. I'm going to make it 1000 millimeters. All right. So after this, I'm just going to place some reference planes. Let me place two right there, and then another two right there, and then I'm going to place a dimension between all of these. I'm going to make them equal. So it's going to be very much complicated. So I'm not, let me just remove them. I'm going to place them between these, excluding the extrusion, make them equal, and then only these ones are going to be moved. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing this side. Let's place, I'm going to place three of them, and then I'm going to place a dimension between all of these. So there are four of them, make them equal, and this is how it looks. All right, so let me see the offset from this. 1000. So I'm just gonna add another 1000 from this. Okay. All right. So after this, I'm gonna place some piles. So I'm gonna start right there, and then the offset. I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna make the radius 400, and then I'm just gonna copy them to the other intersecting points. So I'm gonna select them and then copy them to the other grids. Say finish edit mode, go to the front elevation. I'm gonna drag them towards the bottom, place them like this, lock them, and then the entire depth of this, I'm gonna make it 10,000 millimeters. Go to the 3D view, and this is how it looks. All right, so the next thing is you're gonna go to the left elevation and then create extrusion. We're gonna place a cobble, offset this by 300, take it to the left by another 300, down by 200, and then diagonally place it like that, and say finish edit mode, go to the reference level, drag this towards this end, lock it, and then drag this towards that end, and then lock it, and then go back to the left elevation. We're gonna say create and say extrusion, and then place your approach slab at 20 degrees, and it's, so I'm gonna place a random line like this, and then offset it from the back of this wall by, let's say, 3000 millimeters. So I'm gonna continue with my approach slab. I'm gonna place it at 20, at let's say 10 degrees, and then I'm gonna place an offset using pick lines of 300 millimeters. There you go. And then I'm just gonna join it like that. And then this side, I'm just gonna say pick lines, and then I'm gonna say finish edit mode, go to the reference level, drag this towards this end, and then lock it, and then drag this towards that end, and then lock it. Go to the 3D view, and this is how it looks. So I'm gonna select all of this extrusion, and then I'm just gonna type in concrete, and then scroll down, and I'm gonna load in concrete custom C2, apply, and then OK. I'm gonna set this to a realistic, and this is how it looks. So I'm gonna save this as our abutment, and then say save. All right, so the next thing is it's our bearings. So we're gonna model our bearings, and I'm gonna say new again, and then metric generic model, and say open. Okay, so for our bearings, we're gonna start with the reference planes, place them on each side. Okay, so this one we're gonna offset by 75, and then this one also by 75, and then this one the same case, and also this one by 75. Go to the front elevation, create, and then reference plane, this one we're gonna offset it by 60, and then I'm gonna offset this one by 20, another 20, and then 40. All right, so back to the reference level, I'm gonna place an extrusion like this, and I think it's fine. I'm not gonna apply some parameters for this. Then I'm gonna say finish edit mode, go to the front elevation, and then drag it towards this reference plane, leave it like that. And then I'm gonna go back to the reference level, say create and say extrusion, place a circle like this. So I think the diameter of this, I'm gonna make it, I think 70 is fine. I mean, the radius 70 is fine, so the diameter is gonna be 140. Finish edit mode, go to the front elevation. I'm gonna drag this towards the top like this, and then drag it down like that. And then I'm gonna place a second plate on top, extrusion. So this one, I'm gonna make it 60. And say finish, go to the front elevation, drag this towards the top, and then drag this down like this. All right, now for the epoxy, I'm gonna go to create and say swept blend for two profiles. I'm gonna say sketch path, place it like that. So we have two profiles, profile 1 and 2. I'm gonna say finish edit mode, select profile 1, edit profile, go to the reference level, and then I'm gonna place a rectangle. Actually, yes, I'm gonna place a rectangle. Yeah, I'm gonna place a rectangle like this, and what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna select it, say scale, press the middle one, and then reduce it like this, and then place it like that. And then the next thing I'm gonna say finish edit mode, profile 2, edit profile, and then I'm gonna place another one like this. So if I go to the 3D view and say finish edit mode, this is how it looks. So I'm gonna change this to realistic, select this. I'm gonna change this to concrete. So our plant is gonna be, I'm gonna make it concrete, and then our epoxy also, I'm gonna make it concrete. And then these two, I'm just gonna change them to metal or steel, or I'm just gonna say iron. And then I'm gonna say cast iron, load it in, and say apply, and then okay. Right, so this is basically our bearing. So I'm gonna make it a shared parameter, and then I'm gonna save it. So this is gonna be our bearings. Say save. All right. Now, before we continue with our superstructure elements, I'm gonna go back to my pier, and then I'm gonna load in my bearings. So I'm gonna go to the reference level and say insert, load family, and then I'm gonna go to where I saved my family. So I'm gonna go bearings and say open, create component. I'm gonna place it right on top like this, go to the front elevation, and then I'm just gonna bring it down like that. Okay, this is perfect. Let me just lock it, and then lock the two families against each other. So yeah, this is how it looks. All right, so the next thing is I'm gonna make this shared and then save, and then I'm gonna close it. All right, so to my abutment, I'm gonna make it shared and then go to the reference level. So let me just change this to hidden line. So for my abutment, one thing I forgot to do is add a diaphragm wall. So if I go to, let's say, the back elevation, actually, let's go to the left elevation. I'm gonna say extrusion, and then place my extrusion like this. So actually I'm gonna offset it from there by 140 for our apartment, and then let me just place a block like that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna offset it from this wall, the face of this wall, by let's say 20 mils, and yeah, I think that's fine. And yeah, I think there is fine. And then this by 140, and then I'm gonna say finish. I'm gonna drag this towards the end, but from the end, I'm gonna offset this by 20 mils also, and also this side if I drag it, and then place a dimension between the ear wall and also the left face of the diaphragm. I'm gonna offset them by 20 mils. So if I go to the 3D view, this is how it looks, and then I'm gonna select it, and then obviously I'm gonna change its material to concrete, and this is how it looks. All right, so the next thing is you're gonna go to the reference level again, say insert, and then you're gonna load in your bearings, open, and then I'm gonna say component, and then I'm gonna place my bearings. Let's offset them by 600. It seems my bearings are too small, so I'm gonna edit my bearings. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna change this to, let's make these equal, and then let's place another dimension. Actually, it's fine. So I'm gonna offset this by let's say 150. Offset this by 150, and then this by 100, and then this by 100. Okay, so let's start with our plinth. I'm gonna say align, 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 align. Okay, so finish. Let's increase this. Let's make this 120 instead. 120. So I'm gonna drag this, drag this. Okay, so for our plates, I'm gonna increase this and make it 100 or 120. Yeah, 120 is fine. Say finish, and then the second plate, I'm gonna increase it also. I'm gonna make it 100, and then our epoxy. The first one, I'm gonna select it and then scale. Start from this point, the second point, and then increase it like that. So I'm gonna make it 100 also. Finish, and then profile 2, actually profile 1. Okay, that was profile 2. Let's select profile 1. Profile 1, we're gonna make it 100. Let's scale it to 100. And then say finish, profile 2, select it, and then we wanna scale it and make it 120. Okay, so go to finish edit mode, and this is how it looks. So if I go to the front elevation, I just want to make sure it's still 140. Yeah, I think that's perfect. So I'm gonna load it back in, save it, load it back into our apartment, and then yeah. So I think this is looking good now. All right, so I'm gonna copy it towards this reference plane, this one. This one, and then also this one. So if I go to the 3D view, I'm gonna select all my bearings, go to my elevations, and then obviously I'm gonna have to drag it down towards the bottom. So go to the left elevation, this is how it looks. Go to the 3D view, and this is how it looks. All right, so I'm gonna save this, and let's just go back to our piers, and then I'm gonna load in our new revision for our bearings. I'm gonna go to insert, load family, and then choose my bearings again and say open. And let's see. Okay, so didn't replace. Let's go to load family again. Let's select the new one, and then override it, and let's just replace it. There you go. So this is how it looks. So I'm gonna go to the left, the reference level, and see how it looks. Yeah, I think that's fine. Yeah. So another thing about the pier is I've got to change its material. So let's make it concrete cast in situ. And yeah, this is perfect. So I'm gonna save it and I'm gonna close it down so that we can model our superstructure now. So for the superstructure, we're gonna go to new and say metric structural framing, beams and braces, and say open. And then obviously we're gonna start with our deck. So I'm just gonna remove these extra reference planes, reference line, and that extrusion. So I'm gonna change this. So we're gonna have two configurations. The first one is gonna be 16,225, and then next one is gonna be 16,000. And the first thing is I'm gonna go to the left elevation, create and say place one reference plane this side, another one that side. So this one I'm gonna offset it by 6,000 millimeters. This one also by 6,000 millimeters. And then the depth of the entire thing is gonna be 1,005. So I'm gonna make it 1,005. And then from this point, I'm gonna place another reference plane diagonal like this. And I'm gonna have to change its cross form. So I'm gonna place an angular dimension and then I'm gonna change this to 0.86 and then place it like that, which is 2%, I think, and then mirror it towards this side. All right. Okay, so the next thing is to model. So I'm gonna go to create extrusion, set my reference plane to reference plane left and say okay, and then start from this point. I'm gonna take it down like that and then take it down by 300 millimeters and then diagonally at 5 degrees at 1100 and then diagonally at 60 degrees place it like this and then place it like that. So in this instance I'm going to select all of these lines and then mirror them towards the other side, remove this one so that I can join this one as a single line to make it easier for our geometry. So yeah, this is basically our depth, our deck. So in order to reduce the cost of concrete, I'm just gonna place some holes right there. So I'm gonna make them 300 millimeters in radius, and then I'm just gonna copy further the other ones at 1,200 millimeter spacing. So I'm gonna select these three, mirror them, uh, mirror pickaxes, and then mirror them towards the other side. To finish edit mode, go to the reference level, drag this towards this end, lock it, and then drag this one towards that end, and then lock it. So this is essentially how it looks. So I'm gonna change this and then make it concrete. So I'm gonna make it concrete cast in place. All right, so the next thing I'm gonna go to the left elevation. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna place some sidewalks, create and say extrusion, set my reference plane to reference plane left and say okay. I'm gonna offset this, I'm gonna say pick lines and then offset this by 200 and then place it right there. Actually, let's make it 150. Press enter. Let's remove this pick lines. I'm gonna make it 150. Then pick lines, and then I'm gonna join this like that, and then I'm gonna offset this, place another one like this, and then I'm gonna offset this one by let's say 1.5, and then I'm gonna say pick lines, and then pick lines, and then trim and extend like this. So I'm going to select this and then mirror it towards the other side. And then I'm just going to change its material to concrete again. I think it's fine. Say finish edit mode, go to the reference level. I'm going to drag this towards this end, lock it, and then drag this perfectly towards this end and then lock it against the reference planes. So this is how it looks. All right, so the next thing is we're going to have to model our railings. So in order for me to do that, I'm going to change this to a shared parameter, go to the reference level, change this to hidden line so that you can see everything perfectly. And then I'm going to go to insert load family. And then I'm just going to load in some families. I'm going to start with my structural columns and then say steel and then British standards. And then I'm going to go with my square hollow section and also rectangular hollow. Actually, let's go with square hollow sections only. I'm going to say open. And then the sizes, I think we can go with 50 by 50 by 5. And let's see how it looks when we place it. So I'm going to go to create component. And then I'm going to place one right there. So let's go to the left elevation, change this to fine so that you can see the level of detail more clearly. And what I'm gonna do is, I think it's embedded into this, so I think it's fine like that. The only thing I want to do is offset it from the end, perhaps by, let's make it 150. Yeah, so I think 150 is fine. But in terms of the length, the offset, I'm gonna make it 1,100. All right, so if I go to the 3D view, this is how it looks so far. So what I'm gonna do is, let's check the offset from this end. So I'm going to place a dimension right there. And okay, the offset from this, I'm going to make it 20 millimeters. So I think 20 mils is fine. And then after this, I'm going to place a random reference plane, temporary one, this side to offset by 20 millimeters. And then I'm going to use it as a basis of me using to array my columns. So I'm going to type in AR for array, and then I'm going to place it right there, place it right there, and then change the number of columns to let's say 30. Let's see with 30, what happens with 30. It doesn't look good. Okay, let's say undo. I'm gonna say array again. Gonna place it right there. Let me check my constraints. I'm gonna set it to last and then set them to 30 of them. Press enter. Let's change them to 30. It doesn't look correct. So let's say undo. I'm gonna select it again, array, and let's see what we have. Group and associate. Move to last. Yeah, this is how it looks. So I'm gonna go to the 3D view and yeah, this is how it looks. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select all of these, right click, visible in view, and then I'm gonna ungroup all of them. And then the next thing is I'm gonna load in my channels. So I'm gonna say insert load family and then go to metric library, structural framing, and then steel. And then I'm going to go with British standards. And then I'm going to select my parallel flange channels. And then I'm going to say, okay. So the sizes I'm going to go with is 100 by 50 by 10. I think it's fine. And then go to the reference level. And then I'm going to say create component. I'm going to place one from this point and then towards that point. And if I set this to wireframe, I can see it. If I go to the 3D view, I'm going to offset this by, let's say, 1.5 and then by 1.5. Okay, so this is how it looks. I'm going to change its cross section and make it 90 degrees, or let's make it 180 or 270. Yeah, 270 is fine. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the left elevation. I'm going to drag this towards, I'm going to drag this towards the top of these, place it like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy it further. So I'm going to select it. Actually, select this, go to the left elevation. Going to copy another one, offset it down by, let's say, 500 millimeters. Go to the 3D view. So you're going to select the two of these. Go to the front elevation. Set this to fine. Select the two of these and then gonna copy them like this. So for the other side, it's just the case of mirroring everything, and then essentially we'll be done with the first configuration of our superstructure. And the one thing I forgot to do also when it comes to the abutment is to place an end block. So we're gonna do that after we finish with the second configuration of our superstructure. All right, so if I go to the 3D view, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select all of these, right click, select on instances visible in view, go to the left elevation, and then I'm gonna mirror them towards the other side. So we're not gonna do connection in base plates. Our level of detail in this instance is 200, so it's just basic geometry. Yeah, so essentially we are done. I'm gonna save this and I'm gonna name this superstructure dash 16225, and then I'm gonna say save. All right, I'm gonna save another one for our second configuration. This one is gonna be superstructure and dash 16,000. So this one is gonna be superstructure dash 16,000. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to the reference level, and then we're gonna change the length to 16,000 millimeters. All right, so it's changed like that. And what we're gonna do is I'm gonna have to remove this. Let's remove this. So I'm gonna reduce this length. Actually, I'm gonna select all of these, right click, and then I'm just gonna remove them all. All right, so I'm gonna place them again. Let's place temporary reference planes on each side. So this one, remember, I think we offset it by 150. And then this one, we offset it by, I think it was 60, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm gonna place my column right there. No, not my framing, my column. So is my column. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is they are starting to act up. So let me just remove my structural framing. I'm gonna delete it and then say create component, and then let's place my column right there, and then I'm just gonna align it perfectly like this. Okay, so after this, I'm gonna select this mirror pick axis, mirror it towards that side, select my column, go to the left elevation. I'm gonna change its height to 1100. There you go, and then go to the left, the reference level. I'm gonna press AR or array. I'm gonna select this point, change this to 30. Make sure this is set to last, and then you're gonna place it like, and then you're gonna place it like that. Okay, so it's perfect. So you're gonna go to insert again. We're gonna load in our structural framing. So parallel flange channels and say open. Select the first one, and then you're gonna place it like this from this point to that point. Change its cross section to 270. Go to the left elevation, and I'm just gonna change its offset to, let's say, 1.5, 1.5, and then I'm just gonna drag it and place it perfectly on top of our columns like this. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna copy it further down by, let's say, 500 millimeters. Select the two of these, go to the front elevation, and then you're just gonna copy them towards the other segments. So the intelligent thing about beams and structural framings and structural columns in Revit is whether you make a mistake in copying them by from segment to segment or grid to grid, they actually find a way to snap themselves and place them perfectly on their own. So if I go back to the 3D view, I'm going to select all of these, right click, visible in view, and I'm going to go to the left elevation and say mirror pick axis and then mirror them towards the other side. All right, so this is our second configuration. I'm going to say save, and I'm just going to close it down, and then it's back to our abutment. So let's open up our abutment again, and we're gonna place our we're gonna place our precast end block. So for our abutment, I'm trying to choose, okay, this is our insertion point. So yeah, I think that's fine. Um, I'm gonna go to, you know what I should do? I'm gonna go to new, actually, and say family. And then I'm gonna say metric generic model and say open. So I'm gonna create it as a separate element. And I'm gonna place some reference planes, one on each side, and then another one like this. I'm gonna offset this one by 3,500 divided by 2, 1,750, and then I'm gonna make this one 150, and then this one also is gonna be 150. So I'm gonna place a random extrusion. So I block like this, say finish edit mode, go to the front elevation, and then I'm gonna change its depth and make it 1,100. So what I'm gonna do also, I'm gonna say create void just for aesthetics. I'm gonna place a void like this. Let's offset it from the top by the 200, and then from there by 500, and also this side by 500, and then from the bottom also by 200. I'm going to say finish edit mode, go to the left elevation, and then I'm just going to reduce its depth. So I'm going to offset it by from there by, let's say, 25. Yeah, and then I'm going to select it. Let me just drag it like that. Select it, mirror pickaxes, mirror it towards the other side. And this is how it looks. So I'm going to select it and then change its material and make it concrete, of course. Load it in, apply, and say OK. And this is how it looks. Okay, so I'm just going to save this as a end block. So I'm just going to say end block and say save. And then I'm going to make it a shared parameter. And then I'm just going to load it. I'm going to say save, and then I'm going to load it into our apartment. So I'm going to go to the left, the reference level, of course, component, and then I'm just going to place it right on top like that. And then let me just align it perfectly. There you go. So if I go to the 3D view, select it, this is how it looks. I'm going to select it and then mirror the other one towards the other side. So yeah, this is how it looks. Okay, so I'm gonna save my abutment and essentially we are done with generating families. All right, so the next thing is assembling the bridge and then generating drawings. So I'm gonna go to new, I'm gonna open up a construction template in this instance. And I think I'm gonna set my units to meters, much easier that way, much faster. 3 decimal places and say okay. And then I'm gonna go to manage and then I'm gonna say Dynamo. So we're gonna generate the basic script to assemble our bridge, and then after that we're gonna generate drawings. We're gonna generate some deliverables, and based on those deliverables, we're gonna populate them on the task information delivery plan. So I've been getting some recommendations that I should do some courses, and I want to know your thoughts on this. Essentially, I'm not a fan of those. That's why I've started YouTube. But let me just know what's your thoughts on that, and then I will have a think about it. Okay. Anyway, so I'm gonna create a new script. So I'm gonna double click for my code blocks, and this is gonna be for my superstructure. And I'm gonna go with some points. I'm gonna type in points dot by enter coordinate open bracket. It's gonna be 0 for x, 0 for y, and then for z it's gonna be 32.651 close bracket semicolon. Press enter, and then I'm just gonna copy these down. Let's say Control C, and then Control V, Control V, Control V. So we have like 5 points, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have 5 of them. Control V. Okay, so this one for X is going to be 16.225, and then this one is going to be 32.225, and then this one, so 32.225 plus 16, it's going to be 48.225, and then 16.225, 64.45, 64.450. All right, so the Z for the second point is going to be 32.639, and then 32.627, then 32.615, and then 32.602. All right, so I'm gonna copy this, select it, control, and then drag this down. And then this one is gonna be for our piers. And the only difference is we're gonna change the Z values for this. So this one is gonna be 32.651, and this one is gonna be no, this one is gonna be 31.151, and then this one is gonna be 31.139, and then this one is gonna be 31.127, 31.115, and then 31.102. All right, let's see. There's a problem. Oh, close bracket. There you go. All right, so let me just save this quick. Uh, yeah, I'm just gonna save it right there. And then, okay, so the next thing is, okay, this is gonna be our piers. This is gonna be our abutments. Abutments plus piers. All right, and I think we essentially, so I'm gonna right click and say list, create, and actually we have to generate some lines. So I'm gonna double click, and then I'm gonna say line, enter dot by start point end point, and then open bracket. So we're gonna have to give this some variables. So I'm gonna say a1 equals to, and then this one is gonna be a2 equals to, and then this one is gonna be a3, and then this one is gonna be a4, and then this one is gonna be a5. And then I'm just gonna place these variables inside. So this one is gonna be a1, comma, a2, close bracket, and then it's gonna create these inputs. So I'm gonna just copy these down. So I'm gonna say Control C, and then Control V, Control V, Control V. So this one is gonna be a2, this one is gonna be a3, this one is gonna be a3, and then this one is gonna be a4, and then this one is going to be a4, and then this one is going to be a5. So there's no need for the last one. And so if I join this, it's going to create a line between those points. So I'm just going to run this, and if I go to the 3D view, and then this is how it looks. So I'm going to go back to Dynamo, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and say structural framing types, place it right there, and I'm gonna say levels, choose this one, levels, make it level 1, it's okay, and then beam by curve, and then you're gonna select all three of these, and then you're gonna copy them. So one is gonna be for 16,225, and then another one is going to be 16,000. So let's load in our families before we go any further in Dynamo. So I'm going to start with my apartments. Let's say open, and then let's go with our base, and then let's go with our pier, and let's go with our superstructures. Okay, so another thing I forgot to do in Dynamo, let's go back, is to, okay, still thinking now. Okay, so in Dynamo, I forgot to generate these for our base. So let me just copy this. So the only thing, again, we need to change is for the abutments, we're not going to generate points for our bases. So I'm going to remove this one and also that one. All right, so I'm going to change. Let me just plug in. Okay, so the only thing we're gonna change is our Z values. So this one is gonna be 24.139, and then this one is gonna be 24.127, and then 24.115. Okay, so this is gonna be our basis. So after this, let's change this to 16225 and then 16,000. Let's connect the level to levels and then structural framing type to structural framing type. And then let's do the same thing this side. So what we're gonna do let me just drag this towards the top. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna create some list. So let's say list create. I'm gonna generate two of them, copy this, and then I'm going to join this one towards the curve and then this one also towards the curve. So for 16225, I'm going to join the first line and then the last one. And then for 16,000, I'm going to join the ones in the middle. All right. So for the apartment and piers, I'm going to right click and say family types. I'm going to select let's go with our apartments and then family instance by point and then join the family type to family type. Let's create a list, two abutments. So the abutment is the first one and the last one. I'm going to join it towards that one. And then let's just copy this. So how many piers do we have? We have like three, I think. So I'm going to change this towards piers. Where is our pier? So there is pier, and then I'm gonna join these ones towards that one towards this one, that one towards that one. All right. The only thing left now is our bases. So we have three bases. So I'm gonna join it like this, and then only change the family type to bases. So it's B base. There you go. All right, so this is essentially what we have so far, and the only thing left is to run the script. So I'm just gonna pull this into my other screen. All you have to do is run, and let me just pull this into my other screen so that I can show you what happens when I run it. So I'm just gonna say run. So it's still thinking. Just need to be patient, and there you go. It has run. So the only thing is the orientation of the abutments. So you can select them, press tab on your keyboard, press tab on your keyboard until the correct orientation is set. And you can do the same thing for the base, do the same thing for the base. And I think the pulse are going to be different. So the only difference now is you have to select the superstructures because they are behaving like beams. You're going to have to select them and then set the Z justification to origin. And after that, they're going to be placed right on top of their insertion point perfectly like this. All right. So I think the only thing we need to solve now is okay, the abutment is something we have to change its insertion point. So I'm going to go to edit, family, say left elevation. So the insertion point is set right there. So what we're going to do is I'm going to select all of these, filter, and then check none, and then say reference, say generic model, and then I'm just going to move it from, let's say, this point. Let's unconstrain it, or we need to move it. So I'm just going to select these end blocks. Let me just move them like this, and then I'm gonna select all of these, deselect the bearings, and then check none, generic models, and I'm just gonna unconstrain this, or we cannot even copy this. So what we can do is I'm going to select all of these, go to the left elevation, and then I'm just going to copy from this point, unconstrain it, and then place it like that. And then I'm going to remove the ones on the bottom. So some hideous manual work that needs to be done. Remove constraint, delete dimension, do the same thing with this one. And let's remove that one, remove that one. So if I go to the left elevation, I'm going to remove this. And I'm just going to select my bases and my piles, and then I'm just going to manually move them towards the bottom like that. Actually, there's something I removed by mistake there. Oh, there you go. Okay, let's remove these bearings. Let's remove this approach slab, this cobble, and then the bases and piles. Okay, let's remove this. The bases and piles, I'm gonna have to move them. Actually, they are fine. Yeah, they are fine. And then let's see what else needs to be. I think I removed the ear wings. Yeah, so I removed the ear wings. So if I go to the left elevation, I'm gonna just place them again. Sorry about the confusion. So I'm gonna place it like that. Offset this by 800. Say finish. Go to the reference level. I'm gonna drag this towards this end, and then towards this end. Select it, and then mirror it towards the other side. And where is it? Okay, let's join them. Just to clean the geometry, I'm going to select it and say mirror pick axis. And then let's join these two. All right, perfect. Let me set this to realistic. I'm going to select this and change it to concrete custom C2. So I'm going to say save, load it in. Where are my bearings? Oh, my bearings are right there. Save and load this in. Override the existing version and say OK. And then it's set perfectly like that. Right, this is how it looks. Obviously, I'm going to have to offset it because as you can see, it's blocking right there. But yeah, that's some hideous work that needs to be done. But yeah, we're going to have to offset it a bit. So if I go to, let's go to the side plan. and I'm just gonna save this. Let me just save this Dynamo script, and I'm gonna close down Dynamo in this instance. Let's place a section. So I'm just gonna measure from this point towards that point, which is 138. So I'm gonna make it 140. So I'm gonna select my abutments, and I'm just gonna manually adjust them and place them like this. Right? Yeah, so this is how it looks. So I'm gonna change this to realistic. And what I'm gonna do is the piles, I mean the piers, I don't think they are efficient enough. So my plan was to place two of them. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select all of these, and let me set this to wireframe. I'm gonna copy another one on the other side, offset it by, let's say, 2.5. And then this one, no, not 2.5. I forgot I set this to meters. So yeah, it's going to be 2.5, not 2005. And then 5, and then 5,000 on the other side. So I'm going to remove the ones in the middle. Yeah, so we have two of them like this. So yeah, this is very much perfect. Okay, so we are essentially done with our 3D model. So I'm just gonna save it, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna produce some drawings. So let me just duplicate this sheet. So this sheet I'm gonna rename it, and this is gonna be GA. Uh, 3D model. And this one is going to be GA. Let's say side plan. Let's duplicate this one and then rename it. So this one is going to be elevations and cross sections, and say okay. All right. So for the 3D model, I'm going to go back to my 3D view, and then I'm going to place it like that. So let me just make sure the crop view is set correctly. So I'm going to crop this. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to deselect this, and then I'm going to lock this view, go to unlock this house symbol. You're going to say save orientation and lock view, and say 3D view, bridge model. I'm going to say okay. Right, so I'm going to go to the 3D sheet, and then go to that view. I'm going to place it like this, and then place it like that. So I'm going to change this to, actually this is fine. Let's say undo. I'm just going to change the length of this line, and then I'm going to center the heading and place it like that. So this is the first one that we have created, and there you go. So I'm going to go to the side plan. Let's go to the side plan. And this is very much the side plan. So I'm going to say VG, annotation. I'm going to say elevations, views, type in view. I'm going to uncheck this, and then views. Yeah, this is going to be, and then I'm just going to remove these. I'm going to place some sections actually. Let's remove this one. So I'm going to place a section right there, right in the middle. And then this section, I'm going to align it. And then I'm just going to reduce its extent. And then I'm going to copy it towards the other ones. And then also at the abutment, we need to have a section, of course. And actually, I'm just going to remove these ones. I'm going to have one section at the pier and then one at the abutment. And then I'm going to place another section which is going to be used as an elevation like this. So I'm going to open up this one, and this is essentially how it looks. So let me just select this and then divide this section using this symbol so that it can be much organized. Do the same thing for this one. Select the symbol and then drag this towards the top just to make things more organized. And then open up this view, and this is very much our cross section. So I'm gonna select these, right click and say override graphics in view by elements. And then I'm gonna set the foreground to solid, and then I'm gonna set it to white just to remove the concrete annotations. Perfect. So I'm gonna do the same thing for this one, override graphics in view, override graphics in view by element. I'm gonna set this to solid and then to white just to remove those concrete hatches. All right, so let me just go back to my site plan. Let's make sure the view extent is reduced. Okay, that's perfect. Okay, so this section, I'm gonna name it Pier 2 cross section. And then I'm just gonna apply some dimensions right there. If you press tab, it's gonna snap. There you go. There you go. And of course, our piers. Our bases. And there you go. That's our cross section, just basic. And we're gonna go to elevations and cross sections. I'm gonna place one like that. Then remove this, just adjust the line, center this perfectly. And then I'm gonna go to where's my elevation? So there's my elevation. And okay, let's do this for the abutment. So I'm gonna select all of these, right click, override graphics in view by element, set this to solid, set this to white, okay, set this to solid, set this to white, okay, apply, and then okay. And then I'm gonna change this. I'm gonna apply some dimensions. So the distance between the diaphragm wall and also where the bearings sit, there it is. And I think, yeah, I think this is fine. So I'm gonna rename this to uh, typical abutment cross section. This one I'm also gonna name it typical typical pier cross section. Okay, so I'm gonna go to my elevations and sections. Let's place our abutment. right there. There you go. And then I'm just gonna adjust it perfectly like this. All right, the only thing left now is our elevation. So I'm gonna start from this point. So these are our spans. There you go, it's perfectly now. This is the reason why you use things like Dynamo, because of accuracy, you know. And then let's place another one overall. So I'm gonna place dimension for our end block, place it right there, place another one right there. Okay, so I think the next thing is just gonna place things like this. Obviously, you should place things like the vertical envelope and all those things, but I'm just gonna keep it basic like this, and then uncheck this. And this one, I'm gonna name it elevation, and then go to my elevations and sections, and then place that section right there. So I'm gonna make this scale custom and make it 150 and say okay, go back to my section and elevation and then place it like this. All right, so there it is. So we have our general arrangement drawings. So the only thing is left is for our site plan. So I'm gonna leave this. Obviously, our site plan, you have to have like things like the contours and all those things. But in this instance, we are not gonna cover that. So let me just open my site plan and then place it like that. And I'm just gonna reduce its scale and make it 150. Say okay. And obviously the dimensions are going to disappear because they are set based on those the scale of 100. So I'm going to place it like this, and there we go. We have our site plan. So I'm going to say VG just to hide the site annotation, and yeah, that's it. So let me just close this down. Okay, let's see what we have now. We have our 3D sheet, we have our site plan, we have our elevations and cross sections. Okay, so the next thing is I'm gonna go to my 3D view, and I'm just gonna duplicate this one, duplicate with detailing, and then I'm gonna unlock the view. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to File, Export. Another deliverable that we have promised to the client is our IFC model for interoperability. So I'm gonna go to Modify Setup. For bridges, I recommend we go with IFC 4. So I'm gonna say 4x3 experimental, and then export only elements visible in view, property sets, base quantities, material property sets, schedules, Revit property sets. The level of detail is fine at low. Advanced, I'm gonna check include IFC site elevation, store IFC guide, use family type and name for references, and use name only for IFC type name, and this one also. Geometric reference, I think it's fine like that. I'm gonna say okay, and then I'm gonna browse where I can save this IFC model. So I'm gonna say save, and then I'm gonna export it. All right, so we generated drawings, we generated a 3D Revit model, and then we generated an IFC model. So now it's time to generate our TIDP template and then populate it. So I'm gonna go to Excel file. So there it is. We're gonna start with our headings for the TIDPs. Normally, this is produced by BIM managers, but sometimes the BIM coordinators assist the BIM managers in terms of tracking the progress and also the deliverables and also populating these type of documents. But in this instance, we're gonna produce a basic one, and then we're gonna populate it based on the deliverables that we have produced on this tutorial. So we're gonna start with the ID. And then this one is going to be file identifier. And then the next one is going to be model or document type. And then details. And then this is going to be let's go with dependence. And then actually let's go with no, actually, yeah, let's go with dependence. And then milestone. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna add some ID. So the reference, the first one is gonna be A100, 101, and 102. So it's gonna be A100. Then let's drag this A11, 102. All right, so for the file, actually, let's remove this first. We have to add some sub headings. So we have to add some. I'm gonna insert some tables on the inside. Okay, let's remove these first. This is gonna be project number, and then this is gonna be originator, and then this is gonna be zone. So this is our file naming convention. This is gonna be level or location, and then this is going to be our type, and then this is going to be our role, and then there's no need for classification, so I'm going to go with number. So obviously I'm going to say merge. Let's merge and center. So yeah, I think that's fine. So I'm going to select this. I'm going to change this to vertical text. No, actually, let's go with the rotate up. There you go. And I'm just going to reduce its width. All right, so the second one is going to be model or document type. And then the first, and this is going to be a description. So I'm going to merge this. And then let's merge this. This is a model. Okay, the next one is details. And details is going to cover the scale, format, and then let's merge this. The next one is going to be dependence. Or in this instance, I'm going to leave resources and dependence. I'm going to go with milestones. Let's go with milestones. And milestones, we have level of detail, level of, actually, it's level of information in need, LOD, level of detail, and then required date. Required date. So we have three of them. So let me just merge this. So we have three of them. So today is 27th of April 2025. So I'm gonna copy and then place three of them like this. Okay, so actually it's gonna be 4. Let me paste the next one. Right, so LOD and level of information in need is 200. Like I said, you're not delivering much, so it's 200. So the format of this, okay, let's start with that one, A100. And then the IFC, I'm just gonna say dash, there's no, and then the project number, I'm gonna say, let's say 01. Originator is VDC. The zone is gonna be ZZ. We didn't separate the model according to zones. And then the levels, ZZ. The type, okay, the first one is gonna be DR, which is for drawing. The role, I'm gonna consider ourselves as contractors, so I'm gonna say C, and then the number I'm gonna say 001. Okay, let's change this to number. Yeah, I think it's fine. So the number is 1, so I'm gonna leave it like that. Okay, so the next one, the project number is still 1. I'm gonna name this one, and then originator is VDC, originator is VDC, and then the zone ZZ, 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 DR, DR, C, C, and then number is gonna be 2, and then it's gonna be 3. The description, the model type is, let me just join this, merge this, and then merge this. So the document type is the, okay, let's go to the first one. So the first one is the 3D model. 3D model. The second one is site plan. Next one is cross sections and elevations. Okay, for cross sections and elevations, I think we set it to, let's say, 1:100, I think. Yeah, we went with 1:100, and then the site. I don't know why it's Excel, so I'm just trying to finish this tutorial. So this one is set to 1:150. Then the 3D model 1:150 again. Do we have a scale here? Whatever is fine. So you saw what I did. So the format is PDF, and then PDF, and then the next one. It's obviously the IFC model and also the Revit model. So for 3D models is M3, the code, and I'm gonna leave these ones like that. Let's merge this. Uh, IFC model. Revit model, no scale, and then the file extension for Revit model is .rvt, and then this one is going to be .ifc. Level of detail, I'm going to say level of detail, I'm going to say 300, and then 300, 300, and then 300. And then I'm going to change, I'm going to add some date there, which is 27, and this I'm going to leave as it is. So yeah, that's the basis of it. I try to keep it as simple. So essentially, this is how the TIDP looks. The template. There are other much more complicated ones who that go into too much detail. So yeah, I just tried to keep it as simple as I could in this tutorial. But yeah, that's what we have. We have covered 3D modeling of a bridge, generating general arrangement drawings, exporting to IFC using Dynamo, and also populating the TIDP. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and hope you support my other platforms like Patreon. That's where you can get my project files. Uh, Tell me what you think when it comes to me generating courses. I've been thinking about it, but it's not something I'm a fan of. That's why I started the YouTube channel. But yeah, join my membership if you want more complex, much more interesting, and much more engaging tutorials. I cover much more interesting tutorials when it comes to my membership. So make sure you join that. And yeah, that's it. I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.